welcome back to the Vantage Point. We're so excited to have you with us today. Before we get into today's discussion, we want to tell you we're going to host a Mother's Day competition. Well, not competition, but contest, celebration, if you would. We're just asking you to submit a photo of your favorite mother's moment and a 300-word description. Actually, I think it's 100-word description.
Yes.
See the rules at www.vantagepointtv. Don't let me make them up for you. So it's a 100-word description with your favorite picture of you and your child or your mother or a mother figure in your life. And we're going to pick 4 random winners for a wonderful prize basket. You just have to submit this by May 1st. And you also have to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube because we need you to subscribe. So moving on from that, like I said, you can find the details at VantagePointTV.com, and we'll make sure that that's in the caption for you today. So moving on today, we're going to turn it over to my co-host, Crystal Dunn, and she'll move us on from here.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us again on the Vantage Point. I am co-host Crystal Dunn. To my right is Minister Jennifer Rogers, and to my left is Dr. Jessica Mosley and missionary Takoya Porter. And today we have a special guest, and our special guest is none other than Lady Rakisha Hill. Yay. Welcome to the Vantage Point.
So glad you're here.
And today we are going to be talking about, oh man, what God has done for Lady Rakisha Hill. I'm not going to give you all the details to her story, but I'm sure by the time she finished sharing her testimony, you will have proof that God can do anything, and prayerfully that your faith would be increased, that if you're going through something like she's been through, that you will have faith to know that God is not a respecter of persons, but He's able to do what you need Him to do. So we're going to jump right in today. Again, welcome to the Vantage Point.
Thank you.
Would you like to take a moment just to introduce yourself and share maybe your home church and that type of thing?
I am Rakisha Hill, mother of 4 boys, all grown, thank the Lord. Our youngest is 20, just turned 20. Been married for 27 years to my lovely husband and best friend, Cedric Hill. Just in life, God has just been blessing me. And so I find this opportunity to share all that God has done. Not even all that God has done, because you can't even, number it, but just a portion that God has blessed me with in this time.
So today we are going to talk to Lady Hill about her experience with having breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you is, can you tell us what diagnosis day was like for you? What was it like to find out you had breast cancer?
The day that I found out, I was actually at work. I had a biopsy, and I didn't think anything about it. I was at work, and the radiologist called and told me that it was cancer. Now, that just caught me off guard, because it's like, what? Mm-hmm. There was nothing, there was never a thought in my mind. I was at work, and I remember not knowing what did that even mean? Mm-hmm. There was no cancer in my family. I had no reference point. And so I think the first thing I did was I called my grandmother, Evangelist Mary McGee. Mm-hmm. And of course she prayed. And I think I actually called Dr. Griffith at that time, and he was on vacation, but he wanted to know. Because I didn't even want to tell him at first, but he was like, you should have told me. So I told him and called, and then I went home. And I remember going home, and because in my mind I'm thinking, I was just 36. Mm. And I had young boys at the time, and I'm like, this can't be. So by the time I got home, I told my husband, and he just broke down and started crying. I'm a strong person, so I was just like, okay, I don't know what this means. I didn't know how to feel. Mm-hmm. He broke down and started crying, and I'm just standing there like, okay, I guess. Then he goes to his prayer room, he comes back. We're gonna fight. I was like, okay, all right, now I finally got this. So that day, it was just really interesting because I just had no reference points. A lot of sickness doesn't run in my family, so I really had nothing to compare anything to. So it was unique, but I can't say that I was fearful or anything because I had no reference. I didn't know how to feel, so that's how it was on diagnosis day.
And how did you explain to your children what was going on with you?
Ooh, I remember we were coming back from a church service. We had all the boys in the car. And my husband was like, your mommy has breast cancer.
That's one way to do it. That's one way to share it.
My youngest was like, well, what's a breast? So, I mean, because my youngest, I think, was 9 at the time. The boys, like I said, they didn't really know how to take it or anything either, but I remember when I lost my hair and, I was like completely bald and everything. But my youngest, he was scared of me. He was scared to see me without any hair. So, I mean, I remember walking in a room and him hiding under tables and stuff because he was just scared of me. So I had to keep something on my head or whatever just so that he wouldn't be scared. But they got through it pretty good.
Wow. Things you don't normally think about. Like I would have never thought about them being afraid of you.
Right,
not your baby.
Right, yeah.
Wow. Sequoia?
I have questions. One, looking back, because now we're talking from a point of, how long has it been?
12 years.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
It's been 12 years.
Looking back, I know you said it caught you off guard, but do you feel like God braced you in any way before this started, or do you just still look back and go, no?
You know what? The one thing that stays on my mind is, for some reason, I can remember being in prayer at Zion Tabernacle on the Tuesday night. I remember the row I was sitting in and everything, and I remember praying and asking God to, that I wanted to be used. I want to be used by Him. I was just saying it. But, so when it happened, because some people are like, well, did you say why me or anything? I'm like, I didn't. And I kind of didn't know why I didn't, but it's just like the Lord just kind of brought it back to me. Remember you said you wanted to be used by me? Okay. So I didn't have a why, but it's like the Lord gave me the scripture about being chosen in the furnace of affliction. Mm-hmm. So I didn't feel like, why me? I never was like mad at God or anything. I felt like it was an honor. I was chosen. Wow. I was picked. I was handpicked for this. I didn't know why, never even thought of anything like this, but I was chosen in the furnace of affliction. And that just stayed with me during the whole time. And I remember, I say I have musical Tourette's. I just sing random songs and all that kind of stuff. So I remember the song, I kind of made a part of it. We always hear, I won't complain. But I made mine, He knows what's best for me, so I won't complain. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of like carried me through the whole time, basically.
Wow.
So tell me what the experience was like for your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, he started off scared. He's probably more of the worrywart than I am. Nothing kind of phases me, so nothing really phases me, but he was the one that was like, why me? Why her? Mm-hmm. That was his feeling of that. So that's where he was. I mean, since then, and at times it would almost kind of like make me mad. Like, come on, where's your faith? Like, come on. Mm-hmm. But he eventually kind of watched me, and I didn't know that so many people was watching me because I was still going to work. Mm-hmm. I was still singing in the choir. I didn't tell anybody at church or anything. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, they didn't find out till like a couple years afterwards when I went back for Pink Sunday to tell. Because I didn't want to tell everybody because, people were like, my auntie did, she died, and so I didn't go through all that. I had my few people that knew that were praying for me, and that's all I needed. That was it. So
I have a question. When we go through things, especially something as, because I hear you saying, because it almost sounds like you said, oh, okay, I got the cancer. Okay, God, I'm gonna trust you, because everybody's faith isn't there.
right.
So I wanna know, what did you get to learn about God in that time? Because when you go through certain tests, you see, now you don't have to go off of your grandmother's testimony and others.
Right.
You have your own testimony.
Yes.
What did you get to learn about God?
The thing that I tell people, I say, yes, God is a healer. He healed me from cancer. But the biggest thing that I took away from that was the peace that he gave me during that. I mean, like I said, I wasn't fazed. And I remember Dr. Griffith was telling me something like, it's like anesthesia. I didn't feel any of that. And I almost kind of felt bad, because I'm like, why ain't I feeling bad like everybody else? but I just had peace the whole time. Because even in that, I mean, basically, it was aggressive cancer. So the diagnosis, well, what they wanted was the mastectomy and hysterectomy, which I did like a one-stop shop.
What was the name of your cancer? Because there's different names. What was the name?
This is what I'll say, it was just breast cancer. Because what I did, I chose to learn more about God than versus what was wrong with me.
That's good.
So I really never did go and look up anything. So when everybody's like, I had this, I'm like, I don't know what it was.
That's it.
That's wisdom. I mean,
I really did, and I'm the researcher type, so I'm always up there, but I didn't this time.
Yeah.
And then this is the part, so I did the whole surgery and then did all that. And I remember when I found out the type of surgery I had to have, it was other people like, oh, no. I mean, it affected them, I guess, but I was like, it's all right. But I didn't, this is something that I'm sharing that hasn't been shared. You're exclusive.
Here on the Vantage Point.
But 12 years, cancer-free, no issue. Oh, when I first was diagnosed, within the 17 months, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, congestive heart failure from the chemo, and diabetes. Like I say, God is healed. I'll say that. But also in 2019, I was preparing for surgery and found out that I was diagnosed with cancer again. This time it is metastatic breast cancer, which, once again, I didn't even know what that was. Now I see all the commercials.
one of the most aggressive type.
And so, but it was found in my lungs. And so that was pretty interesting. But I could say the one thing, my family, because there was a point where I couldn't even pray for myself. But my family prayed, and just the support of my family. So my thing is peace that God gives.
And we appreciate you for being with us and sharing your story. But we want to take a moment and come back and continue the conversation. We'll be right back.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all, if I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Meet the Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you!
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back to the Vantage Point. We are having an amazing discussion with Lady Hill, who is sharing with us her experience in having breast cancer. You've already shared so many encouraging things, but I want to go back because your faith level for this experience is amazing. You know, I have some close friends, one in particular that currently has cancer. And one of the things that we kind of talk about is I was out of town with her and we were sharing a hotel room. And I woke up, but I was quiet. I didn't say anything. I was just kind of still in the bed, just kind of laying there, waking up. But when she woke up, she didn't yell it, but she just said, "Thank you, Jesus." But you could tell the way that she said it, it had a different gratefulness to it. Like she was just grateful to still be alive. That did something to me. But of course, her nature is she doesn't complain about it or anything like that, but she always just says, "I'm grateful." And I'm wondering, prior to having cancer, I'm sure there's other things that you have been through, but how did your previous experiences build your faith for this fight?
You know, I can't even say that there were different things that built it up. That's why this whole thing kind of like blows my mind, because it was just like supernatural strength. You know, that I can't even say that I was praying for, Lord, help me to be strong, or Lord, help me to do this, and Lord, I can't even say I was praying that. And just the way it just kind of happened. I mean, because it's like, I don't know, once you put in the fire, ain't nothing for you to do, you know? So, I mean, and I think about the different prayers that I heard different people praying for me. And, you know, different people pray different things, you know, different aspects or whatever. Somebody might be praying for your healing. Somebody's praying for your strength. I don't know who prayed for me to have peace, but that's what I ended up with. And it was just kind of like, you know, no matter what was going on, it was a lot. I mean, it's a lot to cancer and a lot of stuff you go through in your body and your mind and all that. But it was just the peace that carried me through to where, like, now I'm in this situation again. But because I already know what you've done for me, Jesus, you know, it's like I have no fear, you know, what's going on now. And even right now, like I said, I was diagnosed in 2019. And, you know, the COVID happened. I mean, that was crazy, because I'm like, okay, this is in my lung. They saying this happened to your lung, you know. So there was some nights I was like terrified. I had like, no, we can't have this. I just had to pray, because I wasn't gonna be in fear, you know, what's going on. But even now, in remission. And it was funny because, I'm sorry if I'm taking up the time wrong.
No, go please.
But even with this, the way this diagnosis came, I thought I had pneumonia. And they were treating me for pneumonia for like months. It never went away. And so by the time I got to, I was a week away from my surgery, and I was getting reconstruction surgery. So I'm like, you know, this is gonna be like the finality of everything. Didn't get to have my surgery because they found this cancer in my lungs. And when I finally went to see the oncologist, they came. I had my whole family in the room. I mean, they had to go find seats for us. I mean, even my daddy came out.
Oh, wow.
He don't say nothing.
He don't say nothing.
So we're in the room, and the doctor comes in, and she's like, so when did you get this, and what happened? And she leaves, and we're like, she doesn't look, you know, she looks like something's not right. But come to find out, this is a whole different kind of cancer, and they're trying to figure out, how did this even happen? This shouldn't have even happened. You know, because this is 12 years later. This is the same breast cancer, but it's changed and did all kind of stuff. And they were like, we're gonna have to take this to the board. So they took this to the cancer board all around the country so they can kind of pull together and like, okay, what could this be? How can we treat this and whatever? And my husband, this was funny because my husband, now his faith is built up. He's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, you know? He's like hyped now, like, oh, that means God can do something. So he's now in the fight with me. So, I mean, they ended up, somebody in Texas somewhere, whatever, found out a treatment that shouldn't work for the type of cancer that I'm dealing with, but it's working, and I'm still in remission right now. So it was like I was diagnosed, then a couple of months later I was in remission. So I'm just like, God, you know, just whatever. I don't know, and I haven't tried to figure out how metastatic cancer works. I know people are like, yeah, it's gonna move here, it's gonna do this and do that. I don't know, but it really kind of amazes me, like, God, I'm not sick, and I during the whole time I never really got sick. even from the chemo or anything. And it's just like, I almost feel weird because it's like, that's not how everybody else is going through. I'm doing this wrong or something, you know, like, but just God has been blessing me, and I can't say anything other than I'm just amazed at God. That's why you just have that gratefulness, you know, because you're just like, I just can't believe this. Yes. My mind is blown, so.
I want to ask you this. You know, there's a singer his name is Kurt Carr. And one thing that I heard a woman of God describe him as, she said, what I love about him is that he sets the stage for the glory of God to be revealed. So when you started talking about that board, I said, oh, it's a stage being set for the glory of God. Do you ever feel like, you know, some people have survivor's remorse. Like, Lord, I survived. Why did I get to survive and other people didn't get to survive? Like, what took up thousands, I mean, tens of hundreds of thousands of people. My grandmother, both sets of grandparents. My aunt that just passed, cancer in the lungs. But when I hear you, see, that's why God's gonna always have a witness. I do still heal. How do you handle that?
I think at the time when I was first diagnosed, I think it was 4 of us at the church at that time that was going through cancer. And I'm the only one that's still around from them. Now, of course, I was younger, but I mean, that just lets me know, okay, God, you have me here for a reason. And that's what I started to find out, like people were saying that they were calling their shero and this, girl, you this, and I didn't know so many people was watching me. And so I'm like, okay, God, you can get the glory out of this because,
yes, he can.
You know, others can see. Now, I mean, it's like all kind of people are inboxing me. Now, anytime they go to get a mammogram, I'm getting all kind of inboxes, and I just tell them, hey, it's gonna be all right, you know. But I didn't even realize that I would affect so many other people, you know, and their faith. And, you know, people are like, I can't believe you're doing this. So if I can go through it, and I always say, God is no respecter of persons.
That's right.
So if he can bring me out, he can bring you out. If he give me peace, he can give you peace. So I don't think I have like a survivor's remorse, but I'm just grateful to know that God has me here still to help somebody else doing that.
I was thinking, I've known Keisha forever. So she's come to my house and done Phase 10 parties.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I can see Seb being the hype man because I know how you play cards. So.
Yeah. Right.
But I was thinking, I remember when you and your husband came to church. It had been a good 20-some years ago. At Zion Tabernacle. I remember when you both got restored at the altar. I remember that.
Yeah.
And the way that you're talking is the way the Rikisha I remember.
Yeah.
She's always been like that. And anytime stuff would come up, girl, it'll be all right.
It doesn't bother me.
I love that. And so it's so good to see that because a lot of folks that were with us when we grew up aren't around in the faith anymore. So it's so good to still see people that still are believing and trusting God after nearly 30 years. I think I've known you about that long. And just so grateful to see you just still holding on to no matter what happens, come what may, you know, God is still faithful.
Most definitely.
So what do you do about those that are afraid and around you? Because just because you, like somebody said, your faith is there, but like with your family or with, you know, how do you help them get there?
You know, one thing, like I said, my mother and my grandmother, my aunt, man, you're talking about praying. So, I mean, with my family, even my kids, even my sons that are not saved, my middle child, like he'll come in, hi, Mommy, how you doing? And I'll say something, he'll be like, that's okay, I'm praying for you, and God's gonna kill you. I mean, you know, he ain't saved a bit, but he still knows.
He know how to pray.
Right? But I do believe the boy is praying for me. So, you know, my family, I know for sure is praying for me. And, you know, sometimes I realize now I'm starting to deal with people with other types of cancers and everything, and sometimes I have to look back at myself because sometimes I know, you know, they'll go through where they're depressed and they're this and this and that, and sometimes it can almost like frustrate me, like, come on, you know. But I have to be like, okay, not everybody can do that. So, but I I always tell them, I said, you got to speak the word. You got to speak the word over yourself. You got to watch what you're saying out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Man, please.
Yeah.
You got to watch what you're saying out of your mouth. You got to watch your thoughts. I said, you can't walk around talking negative, thinking negative, and thinking you're going to just get healed. So, I mean, that's one thing you definitely have to do. Find some prayers. I found some YouTube prayers of healings or whatever, and I just started sending those out. And then one person was like, you know, that just really blessed me. I'm listening to it every day now, because you have to get this in your mind, that God is going to keep me and heal me, deliver me. You have to have that in your mindset. So it's definitely about your mindset. Even if you're not at that faith level, but you still have to have that positive mindset. Otherwise, I mean, it's not good. It's like, that's like a wrap.
So one last question I have for you is, sometimes when we go through in the church, we feel like we are exempt from going through because we're saved. Can you speak to that mindset? You know, because I think there's a shock factor when God allows something to happen to me, but I pray, I preach, I teach, so this can happen to me. But can you speak to that mindset if you ever felt like that?
You know, it almost seemed like there was kind of like a teaching of that going on before. You know, I remember hearing the story, this plane ain't going down because I'm on it. But then you think about, remember when Elder so-and-so got killed in an accident?
Car accident?
Yeah. You start thinking. Right. So I definitely lost that mindset. But I know, and it does, some people feel like that they shouldn't have to go through this, because I am a child. I'm tithing and I'm doing this, I'm going to church. But I mean, my thing is, how are you going to learn the Lord as a healer if you don't get sick?
Jesus.
How are you going to learn that God is, my thing, he's my Jehovah Jireh. How are you going to learn? So you have to go. You know, like I said, I kept thinking, there's a chosen in the furnace of affliction. Even when he's like, when he said, I must needs go through some areas. Some things you just need to go through.
Come on and preach, lady.
So, yeah.
I love how you shared as we are heading out of this segment. I love how you said you research God, not the diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I hope that everybody listening today, we all walk away with research God, not the situation.
That's right.
God is a healer, and we have proof today through Lady Heal that God can heal cancer, keep your mind, and take you through. We'll see you next time on The Vantage.